Hey everyone! Today we are making a video on how to find a coach. Now, first I want to thank everyone. Sorry guys, I'm all over the place. It is beautiful out today and it has been gross out the past few days, so my energy is on 11. Okay, I have my computer in front of me because I have my notes to keep me organized. And we're going to talk about how to find a coach. But first, I wanted to thank you for everyone who watched my video interviewing Elisa last week. And if you got through that, God bless. Because my camera, I was using my phone camera like I am right now, and I have my computer in front of me. And she was on my computer. I was like doing a webcam Zoom, pretty much. And so I was looking down most of the time. I should have just used my webcam to record. So thank you everyone who was watching, even though I was looking at the camera about 3% of the time. Appreciate you. And if there's anyone else you want me to reach out to interview, let me know because I'm happy to. It was super fun. So let's talk about finding a coach. First, what is a coach? We pretty much know what a coach is, but I'll just give a little overview. With hiring a coach, what I see it as just shortening the process. So I have gone with and without coaches, never in a prep. Like if I'm in a prep, I've always had a coach. But I have had periods of time where I don't have a coach and periods when I do. And what I have learned is that I second guess myself a ton. I'll think, okay, well, my workouts are on point, I think, for my goals, but am I eating enough food to support my goals? Am I eating too much to support my goals? And then, okay, I'll increase my food, but then should I also increase my training volume? Are those in line with each other? And then my head just becomes a jumbled, scrambled mess. And it makes me so anxious and stressed. So I end up just like prolonging the process for myself because of all the second guessing. So I've noticed that when I have a coach, it just takes all that stress off my plate. I'm able to just leave it to them. If I have questions, I can ask. If I'm wondering if the amount of food I'm eating is supporting my training, I can ask, which it probably is. Otherwise, they wouldn't have programmed it that way. Assuming you have a coach who, pays good attention to detail and, cares about your goal as much as you do, which I think I would like to give the benefit of the doubt. I think is most coaches. I have heard horror stories, so maybe I'm just not as, clued in, but it seems like most coaches, you are a representation of their business and they want their business to have a good reputation. So most coaches that I'm around or have interacted with seem like they all have that same goal, but I know it's not everyone. I've heard some wild stuff. So I might be giving people too much credit, but I'd like to think that most people actually care. So what should you look for in a coach? My number one thing is keeping it real with you. So if you just started working out 2 months ago and then you hire a coach and you're like, I want to do a show in 6 months because this is a show that's in my town and I'm going to do it. Okay, great. That's totally fine. What is your goal at the show? And then say you tell them your goal. You're like, my goal is to win the overall. I would want a coach I was interviewing. Oh, and this is all predicated on the idea that you have researched coaches and you are interviewing them and narrowing them down to find the one that you are going to stick with. So yeah, keep that in mind. You tell them that's my goal. And then if I were that person, I've been working out for 2 months, want to do a show in 6 months, I would want that coach. I mean, if I were this person asking, that's a little naive. So on the outside looking in, I would hope that coach says something like, okay, love that you want to do a show. Love that you are passionate about working out. That's amazing. But winning the overall at that show, we just started working out a couple months ago. It takes a lot of time to put on muscle. The people you're going to compete against have been working out for years and years to win the overall at this show. So we can do our best to get as good of a placing as we can get. But at the end of the day, you've only been working out for 2 months. And you're not really going to put on muscle if we do a cut for 4 months and build for 2 more months. So a more realistic goal for this show would be to get some exposure to the stage, see if you like it. And then if you love it, we will go into a building season and then eventually we'll do another show. And our goal will be to win that overall or maybe get top 5, depending on how much you have to go. Maybe you were an athlete all growing up and now you've been working out for 2 months. So doing a show in a year after a building season, it would be realistic to win an overall. So something like that. What you wouldn't want is for a coach to be real in a way where they say, oh, you're stupid for thinking that. They're keeping it real, but that's mean. You don't want someone who's mean to you. So yeah, a coach that is honest with you. I think that is like the number one thing. Because what doesn't feel good is thinking that you're like ready for a show and gonna do well, even though, like, keeping in mind that you don't know who's gonna show up, and then you show up and you get like dead last. Like, that doesn't, when you were under the impression that you would probably do better than that. So a coach that will be totally honest with you. One of the things I loved when I hired my coach, Rachel, is at the end of the call, so during the call, I was like, I'm going to be applying to grad school. Applications open on October 1st, and it was September when I interviewed her, like the last week of September. And I've applied to grad school before, and it's very stressful. Like, it's a lot of writing, it's a lot of like stress. You get it. Like, it's stressful. So I might reach out to you afterwards, because I don't know if I'm gonna have the mental bandwidth to like take on this new programming and apply to grad school. And then Rachel was like, totally get it, no problem. And I had every intention of reaching out to her. Like, that was my goal, and I did. I ended up hiring her like the next week or a few days later or whatever. But what I loved is at the end of the call, she said, okay, now is there anything from this call that would make you not want to hire me? And what is it? And I was like, go off, Rachel. What a good question. Because that told me like everything that I needed to know about Rachel. That in addition to what we talked about on the phone. But it showed me that she is dedicated to continuous growth, dedicated to the understanding that she could be wrong about something or she has room to improve. And I just adored that, because a lot of people don't want to hear negative feedback about themselves because it fucking sucks. But that's the only way you will get better at something. So I was like already sold on Rachel, but that cemented my belief in Rachel. So yeah. And the takeaway from that, I would say, is a coach who is not so, whose ego isn't so big that they think they have nothing left to learn. And instead having someone who is open to learning new things and being wrong about stuff, and then adapting their approaches based on what they have learned. So yeah, loved that. Okay, so let's go into some of the things I have listed. So I kind of talked about this already, but what are your expectations? I would want you to be very honest with a coach about what your, or expectations, I guess when I wrote that, I meant like, what do you expect out of a coach? So communication, which we'll go more into, and then really expectations for the show, that's what we'll touch on again right now, is being real about what you want in the sport. Nothing is embarrassing. The only way you won't get to your goal is if you're too embarrassed to, okay, that's not the only way. But you won't get to your goal if you're too embarrassed to say what your goal is. I mean, you might, but, you know, just be honest with your coach. Nothing, you shouldn't be ashamed to say, like, I have these really high aspirations. Do you think you can get me there? Do you think that I am being realistic in my idea? Like, is my structure going to limit me? Or, like, is there anything that's going to limit me that makes this a crazy idea? And even if they say yes, if you're newer in the sport, I would still go for it, because you kind of never know. Okay. And then what is something else? Price. So I would say that coaches range from like, it seems like the average would be $300 a month, but I think you can find coaches between like $200 to like $500 a month. So $300 wouldn't be the average, but like, I think $300 is a pretty common price. There are coaches that charge $500. For me, even if the coach is worth it, I couldn't afford that kind of thing. And I would be a little bit wary of coaches that do charge that much. If you are interested in someone who charges that much, I would be taking a very critical look at a lot of the things we're going to talk about, but one of those things being client track record and their like knowledge. So I know one person who has like extensive medical knowledge, which is very important when you're dealing with like if you want to take PEDs or something. And so that, like, might be worth it. And this person also is extremely detail-oriented. Like, you are treated like a lab rat, from what I understand, when you are coached by this person. And they're great. So I would say they probably are worth $500 a month. Does that mean that you need to go with them? No. Like, there are a bunch of other coaches that you can get, like, excellent service from for less money. But yeah, so I would just be prepared for the price. Like, you'll have a monthly commitment, or maybe you buy like a 6-month package or whatever their package is. So be prepared to budget that in because competing overall is expensive. And yeah, if you want a video on like the cost of competing, then I can make that too. But there's been a lot of info on that, so I don't know if it's like I don't know if anyone will care about that. So yeah, price is a consideration. And then training philosophy. So when I hired Paul, it was because I loved his training philosophy. I loved that he seemed to have a really good grasp on what true balance is when you are doing bodybuilding. So like for me, and I've talked about this before, if I feel like a lab rat, if I feel like everything is regimented to no end, then I get burnt out. Like it's just not for me. So, and as someone who has a history of like binge eating disorder, and I would say exercise bulimia, I don't know if that's like a real, I don't know if that's like, I think that is a term. I don't know if that's like an official psychological term or like diagnosable disorder or something, but I would say that's what I had. I would like exercise a lot to compensate for what I ate, even though I knew it wouldn't like actually cancel anything out. And instead it just resulted in like more mental anguish or mental distress and injuries. So it was important to me that I have a coach who really prioritized balance, and I wouldn't feel like guilty if I had a cookie or something like that. So, yeah, philosophy. Do your philosophies align? Whereas other people, they want that extreme, regimented lifestyle 100% of the time, all year round, even if they're in like a 3-year improvement season, that's what they want. And that's totally fine. And that's just something you would keep in mind when you are looking for your coach. So if someone echoes that philosophy, they might be a good fit for you. So yeah, philosophy is a big thing. And then another thing is, are you a beginner? Like, where are you at in this lifting, competing journey? So there are some coaches who don't necessarily want to work with beginners because it's just more work. It's like more time. There's more questions you need to answer. There's a little more hand holding because not only are you like trying to help them reach a physique goal, but it's like everything that goes into that. So it's like ground up, teaching them what macros are, how to count macros, troubleshooting when they count their macros incorrectly, which is almost inevitable. Like the first time I tried tracking macros, my coach had 30 grams of protein per meal. On my plan, I had 5 meals a day. So I made a bunch of chicken. And then I weighed out 30 grams of chicken. And I looked at it and I straight up burst out into tears because I was like, this is all I get to eat for 5 meals a day. It was like 3 bites of chicken. And I completely lost it because I thought, oh, well, chicken is protein. So 30 grams of this chicken is 30 grams of protein. Perfect. So I didn't get it. So that was like, that was a conversation my coach had to have with me, and she had to have tons of conversations with me about that kind of thing. So being a beginner, nothing wrong with it, obviously. We all start somewhere, but it's more work. So it's like the macros, it's writing them a plan, and then sometimes they won't look up what's on the plan. They'll just text you and ask you what the plan is when, we can easily look things up. And then you need to make sure their form is correct. You're starting from bottom up with form. So someone's squat might be leading with their knees, and obviously that's not how you squat. So it's a lot of extra work. So there are some coaches that don't really want to take that on. So that's a question I would ask. I would be like, are you someone who works with beginners? Because I just started working out a few months ago, and I am aware that it's like going to be an uphill thing, which I'm excited about, but I want to make sure that you will be able to offer me the communication I need to succeed in moving towards this goal. So yeah, are you a beginner? And then client results. So this is a big one. I have a few like sub points about this, and let me separate them because I will get confused. Okay. So client results. I have a few things written, but okay, let's talk about if you are looking for a coach and you see that they have a lot of girls, maybe not even a lot, but like you're seeing 10 girls and a few of them are going on stage, not stage ready. Like maybe they're not lean enough. It'll really mainly be they're not lean enough, I think. Or like they don't have enough muscle and they're on a national stage. It's like, well, why are you putting someone on a national stage, letting them spend all that time and money when they are certainly not ready for a national stage? So there are multiple reasons a client might go on stage not ready. In the case of this national show thing, maybe the client like maybe the coach really does think they're ready, which would be a concern. I would not hire that coach if they're putting someone on stage who they think is ready, who is clearly not. Like, that would be a problem. Or maybe, like, that show is just honestly local to them. Like, maybe they live in Teaneck, New Jersey, so they go do Universe after they just did a regional show that wasn't super competitive, but they qualified. So they're like, may as well go to Universe. It's in my backyard. So that might make sense. But another reason would be a lot of times when a client goes on stage and they're not quite ready, it's either because they're a new person, so it's just like their first couple times on stage, they're getting their feet wet, getting experience, seeing if they like it, which is awesome. Or they have told the coach, like, no, I'm going to this show whether you take me there or not. So the coach is like, okay, well, I, like, care about this person's health. I don't want someone else to run them into the ground. So sure, I'll take them to whatever stage it is. But if you're seeing that, like, most of their people are not ready, or, like, there's just something off about most of the people, then I would probably not go with that coach. And then another thing, or it could mean, I wrote this, that, like, the coach is afraid to push people to get them to the leanness that they need to be, which would also be a concern. Nothing wrong with being the first coach that a client gets to at that point, but it is an extra vote of confidence if you see that they have consistently achieved that result for clients. And then another thing with their client results you'd want to look at is their long-term clients. So do they have long-term clients that they taken and made better over the course of years and years? Or do they help someone win a pro card, or they help a lot of people win pro cards, but then those athletes kind of like fall off the face of the earth for years and years and then don't compete again? Or they get this is like the biggest one in my opinion, or they turn a lot of people pro, but once those people go pro, they are not doing well and they aren't necessarily getting better. That tells me that a coach knows how to turn someone pro, but they don't really know what they're doing once they get to the pro level. So that client will then switch to someone else. So, and if you don't care about that, that's fine. But if you're someone who wants to be with a coach for an extended period of time, you're like, I'm not really wanting to switch coaches for another like 5 years, then you would want someone who is able to help graduate with you to each level you achieve. So yeah. And then are they going on stage, but they're like, their presentation is a wreck? Then you either have to have a really good eye for that kind of thing yourself, or you outsource your like suit color, your hair and makeup, choices to someone else, or you just need to get a coach who like takes all those things into consideration. Because actually, I'm sure there are things that bother me more, but it really bums me out when I see that someone has like a killer physique, but their hair, makeup, and suit just are not working on them. It's like, well, those are so easily fixable. Like, being told you need more glutes is not easily fixable. It takes like time. You have to stop competing and then like build your glutes. But like hair, makeup, suit, so easy. So get someone who like has an eye for all those things. It just saves you time from having to like go do all that outsourcing and then having like the too many cooks in the kitchen situation that we talked about in one of my other videos. So yeah. And then additionally, I should have said this at the beginning, but like reach out. So you have, let's say you have 5 coaches you're going to interview. Reach out to like 2 or 3 of their, current and former clients and ask like, hey, would you recommend this person? What's your experience been like? If you would change anything, what would you change? What do you love about this coach? Because maybe you can live with some of the things they change. Maybe they say, oh, well, I did a meal plan and I didn't like doing a meal plan. Maybe you don't care about that. So you would be like, oh yeah, that's fine with me. I don't really care if that changes or not. Or maybe they're like, well, my coach didn't come to any of my shows, but they're doing shows that are just like not really like where the coach does have other athletes, so it doesn't really make sense for the coach to travel there unless you're paying for their expenses. Then maybe that's not a big deal to you, you know? So I would reach out. That's what I did when I I interviewed a few people, and then I reached out to a couple of this one coach's clients, and one coach was like, yes, I actually did end up switching coaches because I wanted someone who was local to me, and I wish I hadn't because that was the best experience I've ever had. And then another one of their clients was like, telling me all about this coach and advised me against it and then directed me towards Paul. And she's not even coached by Paul, never has been. And I was very grateful for that because it was a lot more in depth, and then it helped me make a decision that I'm very glad that I made because I've heard other things about that same coach. So yeah, reach out to former and current clients. And then what do they offer? So this kind of, I should have tied this into the price thing, which I kind of did, I guess, but what do they offer? So I know there are some coaches who will like give you a split for what your workout days should be, like what you should be working out on those days, but they don't give you the exercises. For me, it's kind of like, and I don't know if they give you the rep range, but like, for me, I would just want that taken off my plate. Like, so I know that the workouts I'm choosing are good. Like, I could tell you myself, I need 2 or 3 glute days a week. I don't need a coach to tell me that and then not give me any exercises to do, you know? So yeah. So what are they offering? And do they send you check-ins every week? Are they, did I already talk about communication? I don't know. Oh, okay, yeah. That kind of goes into it. So yeah, communication. How available are they to you? Are they going to respond to emails? Like that are not on your designated check-in days. I wouldn't be texting my coach anyway, unless it were like an emergency, like say it's peak week and, I needed an answer to something like right away. Then yes, I've always had permission to like text my coach about those things. But outside of that, I would be like very business about it. I'm not like texting my coach a question or even emailing a question that can wait until a few days later when I do my check-in. So I try to be respectful about the person's time with that kind of thing. Like if I am wondering, oh, would it be okay if like instead of doing 3% incline on my cardio, which I'm not even doing for the next couple of days, I do 3.5 incline or whatever question can wait to like be asked during the check-in. I would wait to ask during the check-in. Unless it's something urgent, I wouldn't really feel the need to send an extra email or especially a text. But yeah, so what are they offering? And are they like doing your nutrition plan? How often do they update it? Are they helping you with your posing? Like, is that included in the plan? So yeah, figuring out what it is they offer and then seeing if that lines up with what you want. So some coaches will not offer posing at all, and then other coaches will be like, you get a session with me a month. So see if you want something that's more like holistic like that, you would want to seek out a coach who will offer you all those things, but they will probably be more expensive. So something to be aware of. However, if you go with a coach who's less expensive, but you end up outsourcing your posing to someone else, it'll end up being the same amount or more money. So just like things to keep in mind. And then, okay. And then if a coach tells you, oh yeah. So if you're looking for a coach and then you say, let's use the pro example again. I want to go pro this year. These are the 2 national shows I'm thinking of. Tell the coach that. And if you interview 4 coaches and 3 of them are like, sorry, that's not realistic. We need to push that show date if your goal is to go pro. We need a building season. But one coach says, oh yeah, we can totally do that. I probably wouldn't trust them. Like if you have 3 people who we're assuming you've vetted who are like, no, it's not realistic and they have a good track record, then this 4th coach is probably telling you what you want to hear. So just be open to hearing that maybe it's not your time yet. So yeah, make sure that you aren't just being told what it is that you want to hear. And then another thing is you can ask about peak week. How involved are you on peak week? Are you reaching out to me on show day? Are you cutting my water a lot? Are we doing water loading? Are we doing diuretics? Are we not eating salt? Are we just like those things? And if they say any extreme of those things, I would probably be wary. I'm not saying you should not hire them, but it's become like a newer thing, not a newer thing, but it's just become more widely understood that diuretics are like usually not necessary in most cases if you are in stage ready condition. So if they have like any extreme peak week measures, I would be very wary of that and probably not hire them unless they have a really good reason or like reasons to back it up. So yeah, be aware of those kinds of things. Look out for any extreme protocols. And then see if their expectations align with yours. If they're like, I need someone who will be a lab rat, and you're like, I'm not going to do that, then it's not going to end up being a good match for you. So make sure that your expectations align with each other and that you're very much on the same page. With a coach, there's no such thing as like TMI or anything you should feel like scared to say. If you're feeling scared to say something, it's something you need to reflect on that. Like, where's that coming from? Is that coming from a past experience with someone else that, like, I'm putting onto this person? Or have they made it an environment where I feel unsafe to bring something up? Legitimately. And then, what else was I going to say? Okay, I said that. If you're afraid to bring something up. Oh, yeah, TMI. If you're like afraid to tell this coach that you've been constipated for 3 days, or like that you have diarrhea, or that you're on your period, then a coach will not care about that. That's kind of just like a PSA. I'm just kind of adding that in. If you are ever worried about TMI with your coach, don't be. And if it is TMI, they will tell you, and then you can make a decision like, oh, me telling you I was on my period was TMI. Okay, bye, new coach, please. Or if you're telling them like intimate details about your friendships and stuff, that's not really related to bodybuilding. It's not really their job, so that is TMI. You don't really need to bring that into it unless it's like having a real effect on something in your prep. Okay. And then ask them, oh yeah, I would ask them, which I haven't asked a coach before, but it's something I would ask when I was making this list. I would say, of the clients that have recently left you, what would they say about you, and what have you learned from it? Because that will give you good insight into whether like they are self-reflective people who do have that like growth mindset. I feel dorky saying that, but like, really, are they willing to continuously learn? Is their ego too big that they won't reflect on that kind of thing because they can do no wrong? Those are important things to be aware of, because it'll show you like the type of person that you are getting to coach you, and if they are willing to be wrong, which could eventually help you in your competition journey or whatever. And then also, I would tell them about your lifestyle and make sure that they are tuning into that. So if you're saying, I have 4 kids and I work as a nurse, so I do 4 12s a week, and your coach is telling you like in a time that it doesn't make sense to do like an hour and a half of cardio a day, that's not realistic, you know? So make sure that they are aware of your life and they factor that into their plan. Of course, there are going to be times where you will just have to do it and it will be an inconvenience. Like, bodybuilding is a pretty inconvenient sport. I've missed I really miss social occasions because of bodybuilding that often, because I like don't really go out after 5 p.m. anyway, and that's when a lot of social occasions begin. But just make sure that they are like taking into account your lifestyle. If they're telling you to do something that's unrealistic given what your daily schedule is, and you've taken like time to reflect and be like, okay, is that actually not realistic? Or am I just unwilling to make a change that will get me to the goal that I'm telling I want from my coach? Then like reflect on that, but make sure there's someone who listens to you and actually cares. And again, I think most coaches do. And then whatever you need from a coach, if you're someone who says, hey, I really need some positive feedback, it doesn't have to be you just like blowing smoke, but it would really keep me more motivated if you complimented my adherence or something, whatever it is. Like, I don't need you to like reward a fish for swimming. Obviously, I'm choosing to do this, and the bare minimum is sticking to my plan. That's like baseline. But it would still be nice if you said something positive about some aspect of my check-in, because that keeps me motivated and it keeps me feeling good and wanting to push forward. So whatever it is that you might need there, or you're someone who says, hey, I need tough love because I have a tendency to give myself a little too much grace when it's not really valid. So yeah, those are some things to keep in mind. Let me know if you have anything else that you would keep in mind, and if there's anyone you want me to interview. And thank you guys who have been commenting. It makes me feel so good about myself and like I'm not talking to myself. Which I am, but I'm talking to myself on my computer here, you can see right now. But yeah, thank you guys so much, and have a good day. And if you're looking for a coach, good luck. And if you have any questions, let me know. Okay, bye.